Good morning, everybody. We want to welcome you to our Lightspeed webinar. Today, we're talking about building connections that drive sales, and really the focus is on Lightspeed CRM. I know there's a lot of interest in what CRM can do for your business to really help you connect with customers and keep them engaged. So I think you're going to learn a lot in today's webinar. And I know many of you have been to a lot of our webinars before, but just a reminder, ask questions anytime. At the bottom, you'll see there's a Q&A. Type in your questions. We'll address the questions that we can during the webinar. And if we don't get to all your questions, we'll do a quick follow-up as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to today's presenter. You know him, you love him. I'm Brian Tierney.
Thank you, Diane, and thanks for joining us, folks, for another Wednesday webinar. My name is Brian Tierney. I'm the Software Solutions Engineer at Lightspeed. I come to you with about 30 years experience in the Lightspeed world. I spent 16 years working in a dealership here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and have spent 14 years working for the Lightspeed organization in various capacities, which brings me here with you folks today. So thanks for taking some time out of your day to spend some time with us on Wednesday webinar. We're going to talk CRM, as Diane had mentioned. We're going to spend some time looking at the different elements that exist in the Lightspeed platform related to not only the sales experience when it comes to CRM, but also another aspect of CRM that most folks don't think about when they think CRM. That's the service side. And then we're also going to show you some brand new features that really contribute to the success of your business. These are different tools that are going to be available to you today, and also some tools that are coming in the near future this month that are going to enhance that CRM experience and really just bring more efficiencies and more profitability to your business. And that's what we're going to spend some time on over these next 30 minutes. So what are we going to cover? Well, we're going to give you a little bit of an introduction to lead management to kind of set the story. If we think of today's presentation as a story, we're going to start with the lead management aspect and talk about how CRM then lends itself to the sales portion of the Lightspeed interface. We're going to talk about some reporting and analytics related to sales CRM, and then we're going to talk about that service experience with regard to CRM and show you how that can enhance your service department's overall profitability, efficiencies, and drive customers back into your business. There is a mobile element to both of those, and we'll spend some time on the mobile application, and I am going to, as promised, show you two brand new features. Brand new as of January and kind of as of February, we're rolling out a brand new Lightspeed ePhone option. We'll show you how that contributes to the CRM experience, and also a text marketing option that will also contribute to more success in your business and also contribute to CRM. And at the end of today's presentation, we'll take some time for questions. Without further ado, let's talk sales department. And most people, when they think CRM, immediately the sales department comes to mind. And I think for good reason. That's generally where CRM lives in most of your businesses. So we're going to go through a little bit of lead management to kind of, again, set the stage for where CRM picks up the story for today's presentation. We're going to talk about some automation and communication, allowing the system to do some of the busy work for you so that your sales staff can do other meaningful things like actually interacting in person with customers. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about workflow management related to those communication tools in the sales deal. We'll talk about some analytics, some system-wide alerts, and the mobile application with regard to CRM in sales. So let's go ahead and pull up the Lightspeed screen here just to set the stage. We're going to go to sales at the very top of the screen and leads, quotes, and deals. Now, the term leads is really where we're going to pick up today's presentation for sales. And as I pull up this image, first of all, you see lots of colors, and I'll get to the reason why the colors are there in a second, but I'm also seeing deal date. When did we start interacting with the customer? Deal number, customer name, and I also see stage name. And that's really what I want to key in on from this screen. I see a series of phrases describing where we are in our lead management from beginning to middle to end. And those are color-coded to really grab my attention to tell me the story of sales from this visual. But let's go ahead and jump into one of the deals from the screen here, and we'll talk about how it arrived into Lightspeed, and then we'll take a look at how CRM picks up the story from there. So for those of you that have seen this before, you know this is the Lightspeed lead, quote, or deal screen. And for those that are less familiar with it, let me walk you around the room a little bit. First of all, we've got a customer at the very top, our buyer, the hero in this story, Jeff Hemmig, who was looking at your website last night. He saw a vehicle that he's interested in. On your website or on your Facebook page or somewhere online, there's a form where Jeff can input his name, his phone number, his email address, maybe a question, attach a unit he's interested in, and that hits send. It drops into the screen you're looking at now. So Jeff, the buyer, is added to the lead. Maybe he's included his wife, Jenny, in that lead inquiry. The source tells you where that lead came from. Did it come from Facebook? Did it come from your website? Did it come directly from the manufacturer, the OEM? We know that. And we might want to know that, particularly if we're spending money on those lead sources. We might want to know, what is my return on that investment? If I'm spending hundreds of dollars a month for leads, I might want to know that I'm actually selling product if I spend that kind of money. The return on investment. We'll show you some reports that show that. Also, when the lead drops into Lightspeed, it's going to assign a stage. And the stage names, going back to that color-coded screen we saw a moment ago, are defining where we are from start to middle to finish in my lead process. No two dealers have the same stage definition, so these are all user defined, and they can be anything that you want them to be. For example, when that lead drops into Lightspeed, it might be the word lead, it might be the word start, it might be the word intro. In my case, it's the word greet. And as we go through our sales cycle, the salesperson is responsible to update those stages to remind them of where they are in their lead process, but also let management and other people know where they are in their lead process. But it's going to trigger some things related to CRM. We'll look at that in a moment. Also, when that lead drops into Lightspeed, a salesperson gets assigned automatically to that lead through a list called a round robin list. And a round robin list is generally an alphabetized list of salespeople. For example, Amber gets the first lead of the day, Brad gets the second, Chris gets the third, Dave gets the fourth, and so on. Sometimes I get a question from folks asking, well, what if we just have a management group or a BDR group that those leads come into? Can they come into that group and then we assign the leads accordingly? Absolutely. Round robins can be a variety of configurations, and they certainly are today based on your business plan. Now, the product that the customer saw, in this case, Jeff, saw on your website is attached to the lead. We see stock number, year, make, model, price. You'll notice in this case, there's one vehicle. Well, maybe Jeff picked 3 or 4. So all 3 or 4 vehicles will be attached to the lead. Pricing for everything shows up on the bottom left. Payment options, days to first payment, margin and costs on the bottom right. So setting the stage for what we see on the screen here. Let's take a look at where CRM takes the stage here. In my mind, the communications tab is really where CRM picks up the ball and runs with it. And here's why. Communications contains a lot of detail, but the first at the very top of the screen is a drop-down menu that we've defined as follow-up chains. And in my mind, I like to equate follow-up chains to workflow management. You're about to see why. But as I'm looking at this follow-up chains list, I see things that relate to promotions or seasonality or maybe vehicle types, off-road versus on-road, RV versus camper, pontoon boat versus ski boat. So I might see a variety of different descriptors in my follow-up chains list. Well, what do those descriptions point to? They point to a workflow management tool called follow-up chains. And for example, as soon as that lead drops in from my website or from my Facebook page, 30 minutes after it hits the system, a text message or email automatically goes out to the customer, thanking them for their business, letting them know that Diana is their salesperson and she'll be calling them shortly. And as the clock continues to tick, appointments, reminders, tasks get assigned to various members of your team, the salesperson, the F&I person, people in the service department. Those tasks get assigned to their calendar so that they can manage the workflow of the deal. And ultimately, everybody works as a team to direct that customer in to make that purchase. Every time the system sends out a text message or email automatically through this workflow pattern, over on the right side of the screen, all of the green boxes are the outbound messages, the texts and emails that the system has sent out automatically. And then the blue boxes are the responses back from the customer because, well, we're human. Hopefully these customers are going to respond, and they generally do. And when those responses come back into the system, they're captured on the communications tab so that the conversation is captured in the deal. It becomes part of the customer history. And most importantly, it's also property of the business. It's retained inside of Lightspeed instead of on somebody's cell phone that at some point in the future, they may part ways and take with them this entire conversation. This becomes property of your business, and it's part of that sales process. So this is a little bit of an introduction as to what happens with CRM, and that's all fine and good. If I've got one deal, the system is communicating for me, it's setting appointments and reminders to my calendar, which, by the way, let's take a look at that calendar. So anytime the system sends me an appointment, a task, a reminder, something that I need to do or follow up on, over in the upper right corner of the Lightspeed screen is a little calendar icon, and we're going to click on the 5th. We're going to imagine today's February 5th. And as I hover my mouse over the 5th, I can see that based on the people that are sharing their calendar with me, there's 25 appointments on the calendar for today. This is that workflow management, those appointments, reminders, and things that are getting set to my calendar. I see my calendar of events. Who do I need to follow up with? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to deliver to? Might even see some service appointments here. And then I also see Riley and Tommy who happen to be sharing their calendar with me and me with them. And that's the key with the calendar. It does require folks to share their calendar with you in order to see it so that you can retain a little bit of privacy, a little bit of anonymity when it comes to the calendar. Not everybody's going to see the CEO's calendar, for example. Now, as the day progresses, each of these calendars will send reminders to the user's cell phone or little pop-ups in Lightspeed or even emails so that you can manage your workflow throughout the day. We'll take a look at some examples of how that happens. So back to if I've got one sales deal to manage, that's easy. One deal is easy, but hopefully I've got 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 deals, and they're at various stages from beginning to middle to end, and Lightspeed's communicating, it's sending appointments to my calendar. How do I manage all of those things? Well, let's take a look at some of the tools that allow you to manage those things. One of them is system alerts. So in the system menu is a function called system alerts, and every member of your team, regardless of department, should have some access to system alerts. Now, in our case, we're going to focus on the CRM alerts. And what that means is, for example, in CRM here, if I've got a major unit that just hit the system and it happens to be something that Jeff Emig or one of my customers is looking for, I'm going to get a reminder via email, via text, or a little pop-up in Lightspeed to tell me that a vehicle matching one of my customers' requests just hit the system. Another one might be you've got an appointment, you've got a follow up with a customer, you've got a task or a delivery or a phone call to make. I want to be reminded 15 minutes before that appointment via text, via email, via pop up in Lightspeed, or by the Lightspeed mobile app so that I don't miss those appointment reminders. Keeps me in loop, keeps me in touch with what's going on in CRM. Customers arrive in various parts of my business, parts, service, and sales. So if that happens, if a customer shows up to make a purchase on a spark plug, I'm going to get a reminder, hey, go talk to that guy. Make sure he's still interested in buying that RV or trailer. Or going back to all of my leads come into a manager or a specific group, and those people are in charge of assigning the appropriate salesperson to those leads. When my name gets attached to a lead, I get a pop-up in Lightspeed, I get a text, I get an email that it happened. Now, a couple of other tools that lend themselves to the CRM experience in sales is your desktop tools. Now, again, every member of your team is going to have access to do their own version of the desktop, and these are customizable by user. And sometimes I refer to this as the dashboard of Lightspeed. We'll call it the dashboard of CRM today. So each member of your team, once they've got access to the desktop, they'll click the designer button. They'll pick and choose which color-coded widget is meaningful for them to see throughout the day. And in our case, we've selected anything in brackets that say CRM. I've clicked save, and my CRM widgets are now on my dashboard. And I can see things like, what do the calendar of appointments for today look like? Who do we need to follow up with? Who are we calling? What are today's follow-ups looking like? What are the completed follow-ups looking like? Sales goals. If I'm trying to reach a certain number of sales or a certain number of leads or a certain number of follow-ups, I can see if I'm meeting those goals. Where do my leads come from? Again, looking at that return on investment. If I've got leads coming from Facebook or my website, gives me a chance to see how many leads I'm getting from those and ultimately how many become sold units, that return on investment piece. Age of inventory, sales over year, and I can also see things like who's my top salesperson for the month. So meaningful widgets or details or dashboard elements to really tell me what's going on in CRM. Now, getting into a little bit of management territory, Lightspeed also provides a series of reports that management can use to manage what's going on in the CRM space. Your traffic log report, your salesperson activity report, and performance report really contribute to letting management keep tabs on what's going on in CRM. If I go to my traffic log report, I can set a date range. I can pick and choose which salespeople I want to see. And the concept behind the traffic log report is it gives me one interface to see what the activity looks like on the sales floor for today. Number of leads that we got from the internet, from the phone, from walk-ins, from maybe a billboard that we've got across town. How many of those leads got followed up on and handled appropriately? What is the activity from beginning to middle to end on those leads? Where are we at in terms of sales cycle? And also, are there any notes that I need to be aware of, like customers checking with his wife, or maybe some notes about a conversation that the salesperson had with that customer? Benefit here is it gives me one place to go find all that detail instead of having to go in and out of every deal to see it. Another element that lives inside of sales is your salesperson performance and activity reports, which the concept behind these reports is it gives you the ability to see what's going on in your sales staff's daily calendar. Gives them really a chance to review the details from a high level standpoint. Where are we at from start to middle to finish? Do we have a sticking point where the salespeople are getting to, say, the write-up stage, but they can't seem to get past this? Might be a coaching opportunity, but this is also a one-stop location where I can see, of the leads my staff is working, how many of those are becoming sold units. So it gives me a chance to look at what the activity of each individual looks like. Now let's go back to that sales deal for Jeff Emig we were talking about earlier and show you one other element to CRM that will really enhance the CRM experience. I think mostly for the sales staff, but this also lends itself to the management staff, and that's the Lightspeed mobile application. So your Lightspeed mobile application, for those of you that haven't seen this before, just to introduce what it is and why it's awesome. First of all, it works in Apple or Android environments. It works in tablets and cell phones, and it gives you a supplemental access to the entire Lightspeed universe. And the best part about it is it's free. So you can download your Lightspeed mobile app and start using it today at no charge. It also does not use a user license. So it's free in just about every aspect of the word. Gives you access to your customer list, your calendar of events, your appointments, gives you parts and service access, sales and inventory access, and even if you work in the accounting office, your daily operating control report, and even rental functionality. We're going to talk CRM in the mobile space. So when I press that follow-ups button on my mobile app, we looked at the calendar a moment ago on the desktop of Lightspeed, kind of the full-size calendar. In the mobile space, it's just showing me my appointments, my follow-ups. Who do I need to call? Who do I need to deliver to? What does my workflow for the day look like from my phone? And if I have an appointment, an interaction with a customer, I can go into one of those appointments and make notes about it. And any notes that I apply to those calendar of events, those follow-ups, those post right back to the deal screen, to the repair order, to other elements in Lightspeed so that it interacts, it pertains to that customer experience, and then it's captured in the system. Also, I have access to the entire deal screen. So if I press the deals button, I can see every single deal that's inside of Lightspeed. I can access a deal from my cell phone. I can even create a brand new lead if I'm on the showroom floor, or if I'm out in the parking lot, or across town. The mobile app gives me all the ability to manage the start, the middle, almost the finish, minus finalization of the deal process. I can click into a deal, see all the details from last follow-up dates to what vehicle the customer is interested in, to trade information. I even have access to forms, but I have access to communication here as well, which is a direct tie-in to where we started with CRM, that communications tab, showing back and forth email and text conversation details so that I don't have to be at my desk all the time to interact with my customers related to deals or to repair orders. It's captured in the mobile application. Well, let's talk about another element that often gets overlooked when it comes to CRM, and that's the service side of CRM. So service has the same follow-up chain functionality, that same workflow management tool. It also has a direct connection to the calendar, whether we're talking mobile application or the desktop calendar. And we're going to look at what those look like from a service perspective and talk about why that might be important. So let's jump back into Lightspeed here. We're going to go to service. I'm going to go to estimates and repair orders, where all the work in progress lives for my service department. And just to set the stage, we're seeing the repair order start date, we're seeing repair order number, I'm seeing customer name. But what I want to key into for this particular discussion today is the RO status column. Lots of colors, just like we saw on the sales side. And the colors are there to grab my attention, but they also have a series of phrases telling me things like I'm waiting for parts, or parts just got received, or that we have everything we need and therefore ready to work, or we're ready to cashier and deliver to the customer. And why I introduced this and why this is important for today's conversation is RO status has a direct connection to the way CRM works in Lightspeed, in the service side, that is. So let's take a look at Mr. Jeff Emig's repair order once again. We're going to go, just to introduce for folks that aren't familiar with the repair order on the Lightspeed screen, just to kind of walk around the room on a general page of the repair order, just to set the stage. Customer information exists in the upper right corner or the left corner of the screen. I can see a little bit of details as to what we're doing to this vehicle, which vehicle's being serviced, what are the job titles, customer approval statuses, even dollars for different elements of the repair. Dollars and dates in the upper right, a little more context to those values on the bottom right. Work tab is where all the magic happens, but for now, we're going to talk communications, just like we did in sales. Now, first thing I want to key in on the communications tab in service, same thing, we have that follow-ups chain. Now, the follow-ups chain has a different series of phrases because we're talking a different department. We're referring to things like seasonality, maybe promotions for the service department, maybe interactions with customers that you've had, maybe escalations even. But as soon as a repair order gets created, or somebody starts an estimate, they're going to assign a follow-up chain to that estimate. And just like in sales, workflow management starts happening at that point. Workflow management, again, could be a text message or email that automatically goes out to the customer to thank them for their business. It sets appointments to the service writer, or the service manager, or even maybe technicians' calendars to follow up with the customer and make sure that they're engaged. But one of the things that I like about follow-up chains or CRM the most, and this does include sales, by the way, is even after the sale. Customers paid for, they've taken delivery of the product on the sales side or the service side. Follow-up chains continue to communicate to the customer. Text messages and emails go out to the customer, sending out thank you messages. You could even send a link to a survey if you needed to. You can set a reminder after 90 days, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, it's been 90 days since your last service. Would you like to schedule your next appointment? And it continues to do that. The idea is it's nurturing that repair, it's nurturing that lead, it's nurturing that customer to keep them coming back, keep them engaged with your business and spending money with your store. And just like in sales, if the workflow management tool, follow up chains, is assigning appointments to the calendar, the service version of the calendar is much the same as the sales version. In fact, largely it is the same. The one element that's a little bit different is the ability to see open estimates and repair orders on the service axis of the calendar. So I've got that same work in progress screen, but it's now visible on the calendar side. I click on the fifth, just like we did in the sales experience. I see my calendar, I see Riley and Tommy's, and I see all of their appointments. What's a little bit different about services aspect is I can click on a repair order, click on a job, click schedule jobs, and I can actually assign jobs from this screen to the technicians. A little bit out of the bounds of CRM, but it's loosely related. And then ultimately your staff can use what's happening in the follow-up chains and that workflow management to manage their day, to manage customer expectations, and to set the schedule for your technicians. Last little element in service that we'll speak about is the mobile application, because again, there are some elements in the mobile app that contribute to the service experience. And I'm going to press on follow-ups button in service, just like we did in sales, and I can see who do I need to follow up with, who do I need to call, who do I need to check in with on the service side, my calendar of events. I can also make notes about those appointments, those deliveries, those pickups. Maybe the dog bit me as I was dropping off a motorcycle and I want to document that. That's going to post back to the repair order. It becomes part of the history of the service, part of the customer history as well. And just like we saw in sales, text and email communication is visible on the mobile application, and it's a direct reflection of what's going on in each of those repair orders related to CRM, related to service. So let's talk about a couple of things that are brand new in the Lightspeed world, one of which is Lightspeed ePhone. And what is ePhone? Well, ePhone is a new way to interact with your customers. Instead of using your traditional landline phones, we're using a voice over IP phone system that directly feeds into Lightspeed. It still provides all of the same phone services that you're used to with your traditional phones, but it offers the ability to install the phone system more quickly, more effectively. You can also use soft phones versus hard phones. And sometimes I get the question of if I've got a desk phone already, and I like that desk phone, particularly because I can slam that phone if I'm angry. You can still use any of the hardware that you have. Chances are the phone that you already have will directly interface with the Lightspeed ePhone. But the benefit to having the soft phone is you don't necessarily need hardware. It's a reduction on hardware costs. It's a more simplistic aspect for managing phone calls in your business. But why I bring it up when it comes to CRM is there's two elements that we haven't had before in the Lightspeed world that relate to CRM. One is call recording, actually recording the audio of conversations and then contributing that to the sales experience or the service experience. And going a little bit further than that, if you've got hours and hours of audio, and maybe you've got a management group that's reviewing that audio, well, you also get a summarized version in text that'll take that audio, put it into a couple of paragraphs or maybe a couple of sentences, the transcription reduction, so that it makes it easier for your management group or for even salespeople to review what did we talk about in those phone calls. And let's talk a little bit about what happens when ePhone calls your business. So again, it's an electronic phone system. It's a voice over IP phone system. And when your customers call you, you're going to get a little pop-up in the bottom right corner of your Lightspeed screen that's going to show the phone number that's calling. It's also going to connect that phone number to a customer name or a customer record. So as you're looking at the screen and your phone's ringing, you already know who's calling. You click on the little link on the little pop-up on the bottom right corner of your screen, and it's going to take you to the customer screen where you'll then be able to see all of the open icons, all of the open repair orders, all the open sales deals, all the open special orders. And before you ever pick up the phone, you can already see who's calling. You can see the activity of that customer. You can click into the sales deal, the repair order, the parts invoice, and already have a meaningful idea of what's going on with that customer before, again, you ever even pick up the phone. Benefit here is it's going to reduce hold times. So now, as the customer, as you're picking up the phone and you say, "Hey, Jeff, are you calling about your Husqvarna purchase?" Well, how did you know? Well, we're using Lightspeed ePhone. That's how I know. And I'm looking at your sales deal now, and I see that we're making some progress in that sale. In fact, if you go to the communications tab as the user that's using Lightspeed and using ePhone and talking to Jeff, you can see what that email and text conversation looks like prior to you picking up the phone, and you already know what the customer might be calling about. Now, furthermore, when that customer calls you, there's going to be a little entry in the communications tab that shows an inbound call, date stamp, timestamp. And if you happen to pick up the phone and call Jeff, it also shows a date stamp and timestamp that was an outbound call to Jeff. It's captured in the communications tab. Now, one of the innovations that's coming in February, so one of the innovations that's coming right now is the call recording and the text summaries are also going to be captured on the communications tab as well. Now, the audio recording doesn't get captured inside of Lightspeed. It's actually captured in the cloud, but you're going to have a link that gets produced on this screen. So if you want to review that audio, you can click the link and it opens up the audio version of that conversation. You can listen to what that audio conversation sounded like on that day. The text summary, the summarization of that audio will post as a text communication on this panel, so you can review that here as well. Biggest benefit is there's never a question of who promised what, who agreed to what. He said, she said goes away, and that entire conversation is captured, reduces hold times, reduces confusion, and it just really increases efficiency in your business. Pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about another function that's coming that's actually new to Lightspeed, and that is text marketing. One of the elements that we've had in Lightspeed for a very, very long time is texting. We've been able to send out text communication manually as a single push. As we've been talking about today, we've been able to use workflow management, follow-up chains to automate communication to go to the customers throughout the sales and service cycles. So we've had texting for a long, long time, but what we haven't had is the ability to send out potentially hundreds to maybe even thousands of text messages with one press of a button. We now have that, Lightspeed Text Marketing. And what are the benefits? Well, you can send out promotional details. You can send out campaigns about free hot dogs that you're giving away on a Saturday. You can also let customers know about recalls or warranties that they may want to know about. And ultimately, it's going to drive business back into your store. And that's the whole reason that we've got text marketing. And that's really why I'm tying it into our talk about CRM today, to drive business back into your store, customer relation management. So let's take a little bit of a look at what text marketing looks like here in Lightspeed. This is going to exist in your system menu, and it's going to be at the very top, marketing. Now, just to show two different perspectives on the text marketing concept, the marketing selection has what looks a little bit, for those of you that are familiar with custom reporting and Lightspeed, it has a little bit of that flavor to it. You can pick and choose aspects of who you want to market to, customer types, agricultural customers, government employees, dealerships, or wholesalers. You can pick your customer type from your list. You can pick purchase dates, last purchase for the parts department, last repair order that was cashiered, last sales deal that was finalized. I can also pick a particular make. Maybe I'm doing a campaign around Polaris motorcycles or Polaris ATVs or whatever it might be. I'm going to pick a particular make. I'm going to pick a particular dollar range. We're going to say customers that bought Polarises from me that spend anywhere from $1 to $999,000 in my sales department. Show me who those people are. I'm going to click View Customers, and it's going to give me a list. So these are all the folks that qualify based on the input I've applied to the top of the screen. I can then save this as a marketing group, which is going to show up on my marketing groups tab. And I might have things like my KTM customers versus a Polaris warranty campaign versus maybe we've got some promotions on the parts side of the house for Yamaha's GYTR parts kits. And I want to send a text message out to anybody that's got a Yamaha to come in and make a purchase on those special parts prices. But I'm going to show you another element that really contributes to why I think this is powerful in the Lightspeed world. And one of the elements that I hope that you're taking advantage of if you're using Lightspeed today is custom reporting. In fact, all of the reports in Lightspeed will contribute to your marketing experience. And I'm just going to show you one example of that now. Some of you may be familiar with the customer retention report in Lightspeed. And this exists under your system menu. It's in reports and it's listed as customer retention report. And now as I've launched it, I've got a series of options I can pick from: initial purchase dates, department, customer type. I want to see a detailed version of the report. I can also input a date range. My initial purchase date, meaning customers came to see me between 2017 and 2021. I want to know who those people are. But of that group, that red section, the folks that saw me in 2017 through 2021, I want to know which of those folks came back to see me. And this is powerful information to know just in general, but I'm going to show you how this contributes to that text marketing campaign. So I produce the report. I can see in that initial red phase, I've got 275 customers that came to see me. And in the blue phase, the secondary date range, 51 of those customers came back to see me. That gives me an 18.5% retention ratio. Now, those 51 folks, they spend a lot of money in each of my departments. Make, did pretty well with those folks. And I can see more details about them. Who are they? Where did they spend their money? How many times did they come to see me? That's great. That's powerful information. But what might be more powerful in the case of text marketing is the folks that did not come back to see me, my non-returning customers. The ones that did business with me and for some reason or another, they didn't come back to see me. I might want to know why, but more importantly, I want to get them back. So from this screen, I can press the marketing button. I can pick my non-returners, my returning customers, or both. I can click OK and create a campaign around this. And what that would end up looking like is on my marketing groups page, I've got my customer retention non-returning list. I'm going to view those customers and see who those non-returners are. And I'm going to send them a text message and invite them to come back in and maybe offer them a 10% off on parts, or maybe offer them a free service, or maybe offer them a special in the sales department. But it gives me the ability to do that, and I can pull information from service reports, from sales reports, from parts reports. Again, if there's a recall on a seal in your parts department that folks have bought, if there's a recall related to particular models, your service and sales department can produce these campaigns and draw those customers back, providing an excellent customer experience, but ultimately drawing more business into your store. So we've covered a lot today in today's webinar. We talked about automation and communication. We talked about workflow management and its relation to the calendar on the desktop as well as the mobile application. We talked a little bit about the mobile app as well, managing text and emails, managing appointments, managing workflow. We introduced you to ePhone, one of the new features in Lightspeed, and we all just talked about text marketing and the ways that that text marketing element contributes to CRM and ultimately contributes to the success of your business. So we appreciate everybody's time today. At this point, I'm ready to take any questions that might have come in.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brian. Such great information. So fun to see some of the new functionality that's coming out to really support CRM and just customer engagement. And one of those questions too is directly tied to that. People are wondering for ePhone, what is the phone system that it integrates with?
Good question. So we have a partner that, in fact, you may be familiar with. You're staring at a screen now that's for a company called Zoom. Zoom is the partner that we're interfacing with. They've been around a while. They're one of the biggest players now in digital communication. So we now are partnering with Zoom to provide that ePhone service.
Yeah, and then this is more back to CRM too. It's like they're wondering how they actually integrate like with a link on their website to have the leads flow into Lightspeed. I mean, it's a question we get lots of times, like, how does that actually work? Yeah.
So we have an API, which is kind of a technical way to say your website or an online source sends communication through the background system of Lightspeed. We've got right now potentially hundreds of different lead sources already mapped to your Lightspeed system. I would encourage you, if you're interested in setting up some lead sources, reach out to our customer support team and they'll be happy to help direct you to the right location.
Oh, that's a great one. And then there's a lot more information that's coming out kind of even this month just on ePhone and text marketing. So I'd say, kind of keep watching for that, but absolutely contact your sales rep now. I know there's some questions on pricing for both of those as well. Best thing to do with those is even to talk directly to your sales rep. One thing too is just going to remind people, sometimes people don't know who their sales rep is. If you're in Lightspeed and if you actually go to the help and then you go to the actual customer or client portal, you can see who your Lightspeed sales rep is right there on that screen. So that's kind of a key part as well. Um, Other thing is somebody's wondering, oh, there's a good question here too. They're wondering about the sales and service calendars. Do those combine? Like, we really look at them kind of as separate calendars and different people working on them.
Yeah, good question. They essentially are the same interface. So if you've got a person that works in both departments, the appointments are combined. And that's not uncommon. We think of that as wearing a lot of hats in the business. So if you wear the service hat sometimes and the sales hat sometimes, appointments that came from service will also show up on your sales calendar, so that you can manage workflow in both environments.
Yeah. And here's some other fun questions too that kind of related more to text marketing. I'm wondering about, I love it because people are starting to think about the ways they can use it for mass promotions, mass messaging. And they're like, one specific question is, can I separate non-returning customers when I'm sending out a text?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you may have seen on that report page, I can pick my returning customers, I can pick my non-returners, I can pick both. But for those of you that have seen custom reports before in Lightspeed, you know that you've got some powerful filter functionality. You've got the ability to click and drag and create your own reporting tools that contribute to campaigns. And for those of you that don't know about that, we've got some reporting webinars on our website that will provide some information about that. But absolutely.
Yep, good. I mean, I think that's, the one thing that's kind of cool with text marketing is it's sort of like whatever your imagination can do really with the custom reports, the way you filter or set those up, you really can create very unique campaigns if you think about that way. I mean, I want to send a message to everybody who has a birthday in June. I mean, there's a way you could do that with the right filters if you are tracking that information on the customers. That's kind of comes back to what are you collected to. I know we've got, we're over time already, but I've got a bunch of questions. So a couple more. One thing people are asking is this recorded? And yes, the webinars are available actually out on our website. Like it'll be available tomorrow. So if you go back out to the website tomorrow and you go to webinars, what you'll see is there's a tab at the top that says on demand webinars. And from there, you can easily get to all the recordings of our previous webinars. So that's one of the easiest ways to find those. We also typically include a link to all of them in our monthly tune-ups. So if you're getting those and not reading those, it's another great way to find out more information about the webinars as well. Couple questions more. I'm scanning here quickly because there's a lot, and we'll get back to some of these probably later too. Just trying to see if there's one that was specific. I had just read one. People are asking this too, like what happens, like, you get a phone call on ePhone and you're not a current customer. I mean, I'm just assuming it doesn't do a pop-up, it doesn't record anything because it doesn't have an integration to Lightspeed, but I don't know, Brian, if you know that one.
Well, if the customer does not exist in the Lightspeed database, it's going to still tell you what phone number is calling. It won't be able to match that phone number to an existing record, but it will give you an opportunity to click on that phone number and then create a customer. It'll take you to your customer list. It'll open up an empty customer record where you can plug in a name, first name, last name, maybe a company name, and save it so that you can marry that phone number that called to a customer. You don't have to do that, but it's still going to give you that opportunity during that first initial contact.
Yep, no, that's perfect. I think that's kind of really what they were looking for more too. So I know we're well over time, and I apologize that I knew we wouldn't get to everybody's questions today, but we will do a little bit more follow-up too, even with just a document to provide some of the other Q&A. Great questions. We appreciate everybody's engagement. Lots of exciting things happening in the world of CRM, and it's definitely a way for you to really improve your game and be a kind of ahead of the competition when you just look at ways you can really connect with customers. So anything else, Brian, you want to add?
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for their time. I know everybody's time is valuable, so we appreciate your time for being here with us on another Wednesday webinar. Appreciate your input, Diana. It's been a pleasure to work with you again, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the next Wednesday webinar.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.